Trucker Dump for December 1st, 2009, Episode 33, Automatic or Manual?
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com. Resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Greetings, folks. Todd McCann here. Today's topic is another one of those blog posts that gets more hits than I ever expected it to, although it really shouldn't surprise me. I'm talking about a subject that'll probably be debated in truck stops across America as long as trucks are driven by humans. This one is called Automatic or Manual. Did you know that it's possible for an untrained person to crawl into an 18-wheeler and take off down the road? They could even do it if they'd never driven a car with a stick shift. Granted, this brave soul might run every car off the road because of the raw size of the thing. And, of course, it's as illegal as a trunkload of dead bodies, but it is physically possible. How, you say? Some of the largest trucking companies in the U.S. have entire fleets of trucks equipped with automatic transmissions. The debate between automatic versus manual is a big one among drivers. It's really not that big of a deal, but you can never tell that by asking a driver which type they prefer. Drivers seem to either love automatics or they hate them with the hatred of 1,000 Hitlers. One argument I hear from drivers is that trucks with automatic transmissions allow too many untrained drivers into the industry. There is some truth to that. After all, every minute a student spends learning to shift gears, they're also getting actual drive time behind the wheel. If you take out the process of learning to shift, you can be in and out of a truck driving school lickety-split. You know, they're absolutely right about this one, although that's really a philosophical argument, not a technical reason to hate automatics. If you ask most experienced drivers why they prefer a manual tranny over an automatic, 9 out of 10 would say, "Because I like to have complete control over when I shift. I ain't leaving that up to a effing computer." Now, these drivers are ignorant. Now, that's not a slight to their overall intelligence. I'm just saying that they should really know what they're talking about before they start barfing out opinions on subjects that they know very little about. When I find a driver who really hates automatics, I find that most have never even driven one. Now, I may be ignorant on a lot of subjects. The evil overlord's taste in men comes to mind, but this isn't one of them. I've driven both types of transmissions, and I can tell you that as far as I can tell, there's only one thing a manual transmission can do that an automatic can't, and that has to do with the engine speed and the engine brake, or Jake brake. If you let off the accelerator in a vehicle with a manual transmission, the engine will start slowing you down. You may have experienced that in your friend's car. You know, the one who really liked the Fast and Furious movies. Same goes in a big rig, only if it has its Jake brake turned on, it'll kick on immediately too. Not so in an automatic. If you're in an automatic, when you let up on the gas pedal, it just assumes you want to coast. Again, just like your auto-trained car. If you want the Jake to kick in on an automatic truck, you have to flip a switch, tap the brake pedal, or, if it has one, the clutch pedal. So again, there's perhaps a second point for the manual fans. But honestly, I doubt most automatic haters even know that. So really, other than the whole inexperienced driver argument, the only gripe becomes the inability to control shifts. Maybe I should explain how these transmissions work, in everyday Billy Bob speech, of course. If there's one thing I ain't, it's a mechanic, or an English major, as personified by the use of the word ain't. The manual tranny and clutch in your car or pickup truck is similar to the one found in a big rig, except that it's way harder to master. For with a car, you can shift at virtually any point you choose. In a semi, you have to shift at certain RPMs, that's revolutions per minute, or how fast the motor is running. While you're shifting, you must also double pump the clutch pedal. Double clutching involves pushing the clutch pedal in halfway, taking the transmission out of gear, quickly getting the engine to the correct RPM, pressing the clutch halfway again, and putting the tranny into the desired gear. To an experienced driver, this all takes place in the blink of an eye. But experienced drivers can also do the shifting without the double clutching. We call this floating the gears. The evil overlord and I are proud members of this holier-than-thou cult. Actually, most truckers learn to do this within a year or two out of getting out of truck driving school. Now onto that awful shift-controlling, brainwashing, backstabbing automatic transmission. It wants to take control of your life and drive you off the nearest bridge. It wants to stall you on a set of railroad tracks. It truly hates you and the very air that you breathe. Not. The first automatic we drove had an accelerator pedal, a brake pedal, and a clutch pedal. The shifter was a lever on the right side of the steering column. The only time you had to use the clutch pedal was when starting or stopping. Other than that, your left foot could take a nap. Later on, we drove a fully automatic transmission. It looked the same except for one thing, the noticeable lack of a clutch pedal. If you were to look into the floorboard of a truck with a fully automatic clutch, it would look exactly like your station wagon. It's got a gas pedal and brake pedal. It's truly fully automatic. As for the shifter, well, a picture is worth 1,000 words. 10,000 of my words. I am a bit long-winded. You can go to the website, abouttruckdriving.com, find this blog post, automatic or manual, and check out the photos there. Naturally, R is for reverse, N is neutral, D is drive, and L stands for low gear. Hold your foot on the brake pedal and select a gear. Simple pimple. Okay, now as long as that little arrow points at auto, you let the computer shift the truck. When you speed up, it upshifts. When you slow down, it downshifts. When you come to a complete stop, the automatic clutch takes over. The only time it pitches a fit is when the weight of your load changes. When you have a heavy load, it lets the engine rev more before it shifts. Eventually, your trailer is going to be empty, but the computer doesn't know that. It still waits to shift. It will adjust itself if you wait long enough, but who's got the patience for that? Heck, I can't even wait for the toast to pop up by itself. And that's when you point the little arrow to manual. So here's where the stubborn old-timers' arguments fall apart. I can retrain my truck to shift by shifting it manually. If you pull this lever toward you, up, it shifts up one gear. Push it down, and it downshifts one gear. Yeah, but you can't skip shift. Ah, but you can. Skip shifting is precisely what it sounds like. If you have a light enough load, or you're going downhill, you can sometimes skip a gear to save some time and effort. The auto shifter lets you do the same thing. Bring your RPMs up high enough and quickly pull the handle twice toward you. Well, what do you know, cranky pants? I believe that was a skip shift. You can also downshift two gears at once, following the same principles as you would with a manual shifter. Any time you feel like shifting gears for yourself, one little finger flip will do the trick. There is, however, one time when I completely agree with the stubborn old coots. When I'm getting ready to go down a steep mountain pass, the last thing I want is a computer controlling my shifts. With the flick of the switch from automatic to manual, I'm in complete control. If I left it in automatic, it would assume I'm just speeding up really fast and upshift all the quicker. Bad news on a twisty 7% downgrade. Although I've never had it happen, I've heard tales of automatic transmissions that upshifted by themselves. This happens when the motor is revving too high and the computer takes over to save the engine. I've also had a manual shift transmission pop out of gear under the same circumstances. If you're super paranoid about that kind of thing, low gear should give you some peace of mind. When the automatic transmission is in low gear, it cannot upshift, again, except to save the motor. Let me put it this way. If it upshifts because you're revving the engine too high, you're doing it wrong. Plain and simple. However, if you're doing it properly, it'll maintain its current gear, whether in automatic or manual mode. No upshifts are allowed, but you can downshift until your little heart is as happy as a dog in a leg humping contest. So here's the way I look at this whole debate. If you want to wear your left knee out by double pumping a clutch pedal, be my guest. If you're cool enough to float the gears, well, you just go ahead and busy yourself with a constantly moving gear shift, especially during rush hour. Me? I'd rather blow out my left knee with my horrendous golf swing. And you'll wish you had a healthy set of knees if you're ever trying to escape the path of my wicked banana slice.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
Well, tra-la-la-boom-de-ay. Looks like we got a couple of more comments. Love it. Truck Driver News writes in again. Wow, 2 podcasts in a row. Way to go, Jason. He writes, "This is a very good post. A lot of new drivers should pay attention to this. Shortly after 9/11, I worked for a tanker outfit hauling food products. I came out of California with a load of cream one time and had someone mess with the seals. I called the company and told them. They called the shipper and receiver, and it was determined that the load was to be destroyed. I hauled it into a dairy and unloaded it. Now, as to say for sure it was destroyed, I doubt it. but they did unload it and sign the bills. That's really all I was worried about. Thanks, Todd, for the informative post. Well, Jason, great story. You know, no wonder the evil overlord wants me to cut back on dairy products. Next up is a new commenter, Buck Black. He says, very interesting story. I'm glad you covered yourself and weren't accused of stealing the TV. Well, Buck, it's good to know that you're out there. If I had been accused of stealing the TV and I was feeling really bad, that I could call you. For those people that don't know, Buck Black is a independent therapist. He deals with a lot of truckers. So if you've got issues anywhere from marriage, loneliness, stress, whatever you got going on in your life that you need to talk to somebody confidentially, Buck Black is the guy. His website is truckertherapy.com. You can go over there and check out how he does a lot of therapy with Skype. It's pretty cool. So if you need him, you can go to the website, or you can also contact him on Twitter. His handle is @truckertherapy. Pretty easy. So, thanks for leaving your comment, Buck. Come on back anytime. Well, unfortunately, that's it for the day, so you can get back to work. Actually, I imagine most of you are probably working anyway. That's the whole point of this podcast, so you don't have to read anything. All right, here's the contact information. So, what do you think? Are you a fan of one or the other? Why? Have I left something out? Tell us all about it by typing TD033 into the search bar over at abouttruckdriving.com. Be sure to subscribe to the blog while you're there. If you'd prefer to email me, you can find me at truckerdump@gmail.com. Or if Twitter is your thing, follow @Todd McCann over there. That's 2 D's, 2 C's, and 2 N's. If you'd like to subscribe to the podcast, there's a link on the website, or you can search for it on iTunes. And lastly, those mean people over at Apple unfairly judge me by how many reviews I have, so I'd appreciate a little help with that. Thanks for listening. So until next time, drive safe, and stay out of my way.